Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that someone would uncover the truth. It was meant to be mine alone. In a stillness that enveloped the world, a single moment hung in the air, pregnant with possibility, a breath stolen amidst the chaos that had been suffocating me. It was never part of my design. I acted on impulse, without a second thought. It unfolded. Silence enveloped the house, a heavy stillness that seemed to hold its breath, the kind of silence that seeps deep into your very being. The house stood silent and empty, a hollow shell devoid of life. Silence enveloped the space, as if the very air held its breath. No footsteps echoed in the stillness. Silence enveloped the room, a thick curtain drawn against the chaos of the outside world. Only I remain, enveloped in the profound silence. The memory comes rushing back. I stood in my room, still shaken, lost in my thoughts, droplets of water clinging to my skin, remnants of the shower still fresh and alive. As I glanced into the mirror, my reflection stared back at me, a haunting echo of my thoughts and emotions, shoulders sagging under the weight of unspoken burdens, a face that bore the weight of neglect, untouched by affection for what felt like an eternity. All I could ponder was, when had I last experienced the warmth of being truly desired? Unnecessary, unacceptable, not merely present, in pursuit, yearned for. I reclined on the bed, feeling a wave of emotions, the moment heavy with intensity and uncertainty. It transcended mere pleasure. It was a surge of vitality coursing through every vein. A surge of emotion coursed through me, a tangible truth. It was a presence that shattered the silence, igniting a tension that crackled in the air, filling the void left by cold glances and the hollow ritual of dinners shared with a man who seemed to have forgotten I existed. In that fleeting moment, all else faded away. It was only when I finally opened my eyes, and there he stood, a figure cloaked in mystery, my stepson, a figure woven into the fabric of my life, carries with him a story waiting to unfold. Framed by the threshold, a figure lingered, casting a long shadow into the dimly lit room. Silence hung in the air, thick and palpable. Silence enveloped the surroundings, observing. My heart plummeted. Paralyzed, I found myself trapped in a moment that felt like an eternity. Words eluded me. Air slipped away, leaving only a suffocating silence. Silence enveloped him, a heavy shroud that spoke volumes without a single utterance. They simply stood there, frozen in the moment. And I couldn't fathom how long he had lingered there. What he witnessed remains a mystery to me. In that fleeting instant, I felt a profound change take hold. Not solely within him, within me, because I failed to shield myself in time. I held my breath, silence enveloping me like a shroud. Or scream, or leap into the air. I met his gaze, feeling an overwhelming mix of emotions that I couldn't explain. In that moment, I was truly acknowledged, and that filled me with a dread deeper than anything I had ever known. And if you remain still attuned to the echoes of this moment, perhaps a fragment of your soul resonates with the haunting truth of being overlooked for an eternity, until the very essence of your existence begins to fade into oblivion. Perhaps you've experienced it as well. In that realm where a glance, a fleeting instant, carries the weight of a lifetime of affection. I'm about to reveal it all. The undeniable truth. The fragments of my soul that I hide in the shadows. The mysteries that continue to elude my grasp. And those haunting moments that linger in the shadows of my mind, refusing to let me rest. But before I proceed, if tales like this stir your thoughts, evoke your emotions, or prompt your introspection, even if they leave you feeling uneasy, please take a moment to subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga. Each week, we plunge into the hidden realities that lurk behind closed doors. Stories that linger in the shadows, spoken in hushed tones, never to be uttered in the light of day. Are you prepared? Let us return to the very moment when everything began. In the aftermath of that electrifying, breathless instant when Ethan and I locked eyes, everything shifted irrevocably. Not even the air dared to stir within the house. What a whirlwind. And the weight pressed down, more suffocating than before, as if it bore the weight of hidden truths within. Yet, perhaps the transformation began far earlier than anyone realized. Perhaps it all began the moment I ceased to laugh without a second thought. I am 36 years old, bound to mark for 8 years. 8 years that once held significance. Once we knew happiness. Or so I believed we were. Once, he would stretch out his hand to find mine in the car, gently push my hair aside, allowing your gaze to meet mine. As we brushed past one another in the dimly lit hallway, your fingers grazed the small of my back, sending a shiver down my spine. It was a moment of profound simplicity, yet brimming with depth. And then, silence enveloped everything. Transformation didn't come in a flash. The pace dragged on, each moment stretching like an eternity. It felt like witnessing the slow, agonizing disappearance of color, each moment stretching into eternity. A goodnight kiss that slipped through the cracks of time. The workday stretched on longer than ever before. As the glow of his phone screen intensified, I felt myself fading into the shadows, overshadowed by its relentless pull. He sank into the couch after dinner, fingers flicking across the screen, responding to emails with a distracted nod, as if my words were mere echoes, slipping through the cracks of his attention. And in the end, silence enveloped me. Gave up the fight. I ceased my attempts to grasp him. For each time I stretched out my hand, it felt as though I was reaching into a void, an empty room echoing with silence. He remained steadfast in his loyalty, at least not in the way that most people envision betrayal. There was no other woman, no concealed messages. There were no traces of lipstick left behind. Silence enveloped everything, a void so profound that it swallowed all sound and light. It was an emptiness that felt alive, pulsating with an eerie stillness, leaving nothing but a haunting sense of absence. A void stretches endlessly, an abyss of silence and desolation. The stillness enveloped everything, a heavy blanket of quiet that seemed to stretch on forever. A haunting void of feelings. And that level of neglect, it gnaws at your soul in hushed, insidious whispers. It began to creep in slowly, an unsettling sensation that I was fading away, becoming a mere specter in the very place I once called home. The house looms, suburban and pristine, its curated facade betraying a chill that seeps deeper than mere appearances. Solid granite countertops. Shimmering stainless steel appliances gleamed under the kitchen lights, their polished surfaces reflecting a world of culinary possibilities. Walls painted in soft, unassuming hues. It's a setting that captures the eye, yet lacks the embrace of comfort. It lacks the warmth of a life fully embraced. It was a finality that echoed in the silence, a declaration that shattered the stillness of the moment. Not by hearts that truly connect. Even my bedroom, once a sanctuary, now looms like a confining cell. The bed lay perfectly arranged, each crease and fold in the sheets telling a story of meticulous care. Pristine pillows, untouched and waiting. A nightstand drawer, a silent keeper of secrets, filled with more dust than the warmth of shared moments. And that was the moment I found myself in that place, on that fateful day. In that space once filled with the warmth of safety, in pursuit of a fleeting moment that resonated with authenticity. And then, out of the blue, Ethan re-entered our lives just a few months ago. 19, he had just completed his inaugural year at college. He craved an escape, he confessed. Yearning to return home, I envisioned a semester of online classes awaiting me. He claimed exhaustion weighed heavily upon him. He confessed that he longed for home, and I placed my trust in him. Perhaps it was simply a desire that stirred within me. He remained silent, a shadow in the room. It has always been this way. Yet, of late, a heavy shadow lingers in his gaze, an enigma I struggle to decipher. He observes every detail, far more than he reveals. He was the kind of boy whose words were rare gems, each one carefully chosen and never spoken without purpose. Upon his return, he was a stranger to me. He had transformed. Loftier, wider shoulders, a hint of stubble, just enough to catch the eye. Yet, there was more to it than that. A profound stillness enveloped him now. Something more deliberate, into the abyss, weightier. He began to weave small acts into the fabric of his day. They washed the dishes without a word, as if compelled by an unseen force, hauling the refuse into the night. In the midst of a bustling day, I found myself wandering the aisles, the weight of forgotten groceries pressing on my mind, not in any discernible manner, without the intention of boasting, silently slipping into the voids that Mark had vacated. Initially, I convinced myself it was charming. A boy, driven by a desire to lend a hand, stepped forward into the fray, contemplating deeply. Yet, beneath the surface, another layer stirred. His gaze held, a moment stretched into eternity. A coral moment stretched into eternity. His gaze lingered on me, a silent intensity that ignited the air between us, as if he believed I was oblivious to the storm brewing in his eyes, as if he were delving deep into the mysteries of the unknown. Or perhaps, just as he had done before, and I found myself falling into the same pattern. I never intended for this to happen. Yet when someone finally catches a glimpse of you after years spent in the shadows, the urge to reflect on the past becomes almost irresistible. Innocent moments, once small and fleeting, began to cast shadows as time wore on, their purity fading into something darker. The fleeting moment when our hands grazed against each other, as we crossed paths in the dimly lit hallway, sent a jolt of electricity through the air. He leaned against the kitchen counter, a casual yet attentive presence as I stirred the pot. His questions about my day were genuine, a stark contrast to the disinterest Mark had shown for years, and the way my body reacted, nothing has ever terrified me quite like that. It was never meant to carry any weight. Yet it did. Not due to the words we exchanged, but rather the silence that lingered between us. In a home steeped in silence, a single glance can echo with the intensity of 1,000 screams. In that charged silence, every unvoiced thought and hidden emotion converged in the dimly lit bedroom, where I finally allowed myself to feel, if only for a fleeting moment. And then, in that fleeting moment, Ethan's gaze locked onto mine. Witnessed it all. He stood resolute, unwavering in the face of it all. He stood his ground. He wore an expression devoid of shame. His eyes were wide open, brimming with alertness. In an instant, a wave of emotion washed over me. I longed to believe it was all a figment of my imagination. I made my attempt. I steered clear of him. I lingered in my room, the walls closing in around me, spent an eternity in the cascading warmth of the shower. She slipped out of the kitchen the moment he stepped inside, yet the tension in the air between us remained thick and unyielding. It simply grew denser, and buried within me a truth stirred. The battle had just begun. For within us, a dormant force had stirred to life, and neither of us had a clue how to lull it back into slumber. It was a Thursday when everything changed. At around 4 p.m., Mark sent a text, his words hinting at the long hours ahead as he prepared to dive into the depths of his work. Once more, no words of regret. There was an absence of warmth. It was merely a declaration. Once again, the evening stretched out before me, a solitary meal awaiting in the dim light. Another night, the silence reverberating ominously against the walls. I remained silent, the weight of my unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. I lingered in the kitchen, clutching his message tightly, the weight of its words pressing down on me. Gazing at the screen, I felt as though it held secrets just out of reach, whispering truths I was desperate to uncover. With a decisive flick, I silenced it. She placed the phone face down on the counter, the screen darkening as if sealing away the secrets it held. I filled a glass with rich crimson wine, the liquid swirling like a dark secret waiting to be uncovered. I carried it with me as I ascended the stairs. The laundry I had begun earlier lay abandoned, forgotten in the wake of more pressing matters that demanded my attention. The basket cradled it, a heralded testament to my distraction. A sense of indifference washed over me, a heavy fog that dulled every thought and feeling. In the dim light of the bathroom, I carefully ignited 2 candles, their flames flickering like whispers in the darkness. Not out of a desire for romance, but driven by a longing to escape the suffocating grip of fluorescent light and the dull ache of numbness. The soft, inviting light. The air was thick with the intoxicating scent of lavender, wrapping around her like a soft embrace, drawing her deeper into the moment. A glimmer of tenderness in a world that had become too jagged and unforgiving. The water in the bath simmered, enveloping the room in a steamy embrace. The heat was nearly unbearable. Yet I plunged into it regardless. I shut my eyes tight, let the heat seep into my bones, dissolving the tightness that grips my chest. And in that profound silence, a door creaked ajar. It began not with my body, but with my mind. Memories surged back, unbidden and vivid. Things I had buried deep within the recesses of my mind for far too long. How I would burst into laughter, oblivious to the eyes around me. Mark's lips brushed against my shoulder, a tender caress as I stirred the bubbling pasta. The warmth of his affection wrapping around me like a comforting embrace. The touch was fleeting, but it made me feel seen, reminding me of the loneliness I had been grappling with. It evolved into an insatiable craving, not desire. Reality unfolds, a desperate yearning to reclaim the essence of who I once was. As the last droplets of water slipped away, I stood there, feeling the warmth of the air envelop me. I took the remaining glass of wine and made my way to the bedroom, the rich aroma swirling around me like a promise of the night ahead. The door stood ajar, a silent invitation born from routine. It never crossed my mind. I sank into the bed, the soft sheets enveloping me like a comforting embrace. The flickering candles danced through the doorway, their light casting haunting shadows that writhed across the floor. My skin lingered with the warmth of the water, a gentle reminder of the embrace I had just left behind. The sheets clinged to my back, their coolness sending shivers down my spine, and I reached out to explore my own being. Not for enjoyment, not at all. It transcended mere climax. It was a quest to reclaim what had been stolen from me, a fire igniting within as I sought to restore what was lost. At first, my own hands felt like strangers, alien and unrecognizable. It felt as though I had lost the right to such tenderness, leaving me in a haze of uncertainty. Yet, in that moment, I surrendered to the moment. Release the weight of your remorse. Release the grip of the silence. After what felt like an eternity, a wave of awareness washed over me, grounding me in the moment. It pulsed with an undeniable force, dominion, not over anyone else, but over the very essence of myself, my body, my breath, my skin. As I shut my eyes, I surrendered to the overwhelming embrace of the moment, allowing it to consume me whole. And then a silence fell, heavy with anticipation. A shiver coursed through me. Silence enveloped the air. Silence enveloped the space. Not a single creak to disturb the stillness. Only a shadow loomed. As I slowly opened my eyes, my gaze drifted toward the door, anticipation thrumming in the air. And there he stood, a figure cloaked in shadows. Ethan stood at the edge of the world, the weight of destiny heavy on his shoulders, frozen in place, staying utterly still. Silence enveloped the air, heavy and unyielding, only observing. He wasn't staring with ill intent. He wore no smile. He stood tall, unburdened by shame. His expression was a mask, concealing the tempest within, serene, laser-focused. His gaze pierced through me, as if he sought to unravel a truth hidden beneath the surface of my being. Paralyzed, I found myself unable to move. My breath hitched in my throat, my heart thundered in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears like a drum signaling the approach of something unknown. My hand became a statue, suspended between my thighs, my legs partially cloaked in the soft embrace of the sheets. A primal urge clawed at my throat, begging to be unleashed in a deafening cry. To pull the covers tightly around oneself, to command him to leave. Yet, I chose not to. I simply locked my gaze in return. There was a depth in his gaze that spoke volumes. He was aware. It wasn't merely about my actions. It was the underlying reason that drove me. In that fleeting instant, shame slipped away, leaving only a raw, unfiltered truth. Not just yet. A surge of emotion washed over me, witnessed, in a manner that stirred emotions long buried within me. And that was the source of my deepest fear. It was never merely about the act of being discovered. It was all about the depths of what he perceived within me. the insatiable hunger, the relentless ache, the woman shrouded in layers of dust, the solitary presence that had slipped through the cracks of this house, unnoticed and forgotten for what felt like an eternity. In that moment, clarity struck me like a lightning bolt. In that fleeting moment, the world shifted irrevocably, not due to my actions, but due to the haunting vision that lingered in his mind. That night, sleep eluded me, slipping through my fingers like sand. My gaze was fixed on the ceiling, where shadows danced and twisted, while the relentless ticking of the wall clock echoed in the silence, as if it were counting down to an unknown fate. Each time I shut my eyes, his image haunted me. Ethan stood at the edge of the world, the wind whipping through his hair, a storm brewing in the distance. His heart raced as he contemplated the choices that lay before him, each one a path leading into the unknown. The air crackled with tension, and he could feel the weight of destiny pressing down on him, urging him to take a step forward into the shadows that beckoned. What awaited him on the other side? Only time would tell, but he knew one thing for certain. This was a moment that would change everything. Frozen in place, stillness enveloped the air. Observing, questions swirled in my mind, relentless and unyielding. Had he witnessed it all? Had he turned away, slipping into the shadows while I remained oblivious? How long had he been standing there, shrouded in silence? But the most agonizing question, the one that coiled my smartcock into tight knots, was whether I truly wanted him to see me. That was the one I simply couldn't release, for the undeniable reality is, I hesitated, caught in the moment, unable to pull away just yet. I held my breath, silence enveloping me like a shroud. I left myself exposed. I stood there, overwhelmed, feeling as though I was trapped in a fleeting moment, unable to move, unwilling to let it slip away into the abyss of time. That thought twisted in my smarka, a nauseating churn that I couldn't shake off. I woke up early, feeling restless and unsure of what to do, needing to find some clarity. I brewed a steaming cup of coffee, tended to the dog's needs, and gazed out the kitchen window, searching for answers in the world beyond. Confusion enveloped me, a storm of emotions swirling within, each one vying for attention. I was lost in the chaos, overwhelmed by the weight of every feeling that surged through me. A jolt of disbelief surged through the air. Regret hung heavy in the air, a heavy weight, pressing down, suffocating in its intensity. Shame washed over me like a cold wave, leaving me breathless and exposed. In an instant, everything changed, like a relentless wave crashing over me, leaving no moment to catch my breath. I convinced myself it was a blunder, a fleeting error in the grand tapestry of my life, that these events unfold. I was certain I had done nothing amiss. Not at all. I left him standing outside, the door between us like a barrier of unspoken words. I left him out of the invitation to witness the unfolding drama. It was not as it seemed. Yet, I found myself revisiting that moment, replaying it in my mind endlessly. The door loomed before her, a silent sentinel guarding the secrets within, partially ajar. The rich, velvety wine swirled in the glass, catching the light and revealing deep crimson hues. Its intoxicating aroma filled the air, promising secrets and stories waiting to be uncovered. Each sip was a journey, a dance of flavors that beckoned the senses to explore further, igniting a fire of curiosity and desire. The flickering candles. For the first time in years, I surrendered to the rhythm, allowing my body to move with an exhilarating freedom. Was that door left ajar intentionally, or was it a subconscious act? A whisper of my mind I hadn't even noticed. Why couldn't I shake the memory of the way he gazed at me? The following morning, I sensed his footsteps echoing down the stairs, long before my coffee had a chance to cool. My hands shook violently as I reached for the mug. At first, I kept my gaze fixed downward. I was unable to do it. He loomed across from me at the breakfast table, the morning light casting shadows that danced between us. Silence reigned. I observed him stealthily from the periphery of my vision. He appeared unfazed, or filled with fury, or shamed, or filled with fury, or shame. Silence enveloped the space, as if the world had simply turned a blind eye. As if everything unfolded, I finally lifted my gaze, only this once. In that fleeting moment, our gazes locked, a spark igniting between us. Hold on for just a moment, and then he averted his gaze. Yet, in that fleeting moment, I witnessed something extraordinary. No judgment, not revulsion. Something entirely different, a sensation that deepened my confusion, pulling me further into a labyrinth of uncertainty. Suddenly the door creaked open, and in strode Mark, his presence commanding the room. He sank into the chair at the table, a familiar sigh escaping his lips, fingers dancing over his phone, already lost in a realm far beyond the mundane. He greeted us with a curt, "Good morning," his gaze fixed elsewhere, as if we were mere shadows in his world. He grasped his coffee, the warmth seeping into his palms, a moment of solace in the chaos around him. He began to scroll through his emails, oblivious to the presence of those around him, as if they were mere shadows in his world, and I felt the urge to scream, because my mind was ablaze. My body thrummed with a chaotic blend of confusion, guilt, and an unnamed sensation that lingered just beneath the surface. And the man I married, the one who once ignited a fire in my heart, remained oblivious as the very foundations of my world crumbled within me. I observed Ethan devour his cereal, the routine of the morning cloaking the moment in an ordinary veil, as if I wasn't crumbling from within. And I felt the urge to ask him, "What did you see? What emotions surged within you? What thoughts are racing through your mind at this very moment?" Yet I found myself unable to do so, because uncertainty gripped me, and I hesitated to confront the truths that lay ahead. As I sat there, my gaze fixed on the swirling depths of my coffee, I wore a mask of normalcy, concealing the storm brewing within, feigning composure while I felt the threads of my being slowly come undone. In that fleeting instant, I realized I had never felt more truly seen than I had in all the years of my marriage. Yet I masked the revelation, pretending it hadn't pierced through the facade. I found myself relentlessly searching for clarity in the chaos. He possesses the wisdom to comprehend. He likely never intended to be a witness. It happened in an instant, a twist of fate that changed everything, a grave error, and so it ends. Yet, beneath the surface, an undeniable truth lingered within me. My skepticism lingered like a shadow, refusing to fade away. Accidents are fleeting shadows, vanishing before you can grasp their meaning. Accidents lurk in the shadows, waiting to strike. Accidents have a way of making you feel utterly alone, as if you were never truly desired. I struggled to suppress it. I urged myself to move on, to shake off the weight of it all, that I was overreacting. Yet, each time I shut my eyes, the image of that doorway haunted me. A narrow beam of light pierced through the darkness. His shadowy outline loomed in the dim light, and the way his eyes remained unblinking. The door should have been locked, but it wasn't. Why didn't I lock the door? The thought echoed in my mind, a harsh reminder of the consequences of my actions. But perhaps the true question lingers in the shadows. Why didn't I put an end to it all? After that fateful morning at the table, everything shifted into an unsettling new reality. In an instant, everything transformed, in subtle, nearly imperceptible ways. Stephen remained silent, the weight of unspoken events hanging heavily in the air. Never. Silence reigns. No clumsy humor. Not a single glance that could be dismissed as an accident. Yet, an unspoken connection lingered in the air between us. A tension hung in the air, vibrating with a low hum, as if the very silence crackled with the promise of an imminent explosion. He began to see me in a different light. Or perhaps it was the moment I realized he was watching me closely. He would lend a hand with the chores around the house. Laundry folded, a silent act of kindness that caught me off guard. He returned from his errands, a familiar warmth radiating from the bag he carried. My favorite brand of tea nestled inside, a promise of comfort and solace, waiting to be brewed. On Sunday mornings, I began crafting eggs just the way I love them. Small actions that Mark had long since abandoned. Objects that whispered secrets in silence. Yet, as they drew closer, their presence began to resonate like a haunting whisper in my ear. There were moments when I would feel his gaze upon me, even during the most mundane tasks. As the door creaked open, the scent of soapy water filled the air, mingling with the remnants of the day's meals. One by one, the plates and utensils were carefully placed inside, each piece a silent witness to the stories shared around the table. The hum of the machine began, a low rumble that promised to cleanse away the chaos stretching into the shadows of the pantry. As I cinched my robe with a firm tug, the fabric clung to me, a barrier against the chill that lingered in the air. As I cast a glance over my shoulder, his gaze remained fixed, unwavering. "It's over now." Our gazes would lock. Wait, just a heartbeat longer than they should have. Just long enough for the air between us to thrum with an unsettling heat. It felt suffocating, as if the very fabric of reality was constricting around me. Overwhelming. And I loathed the fact that I had seen it. I despised the way I began to embrace it. I began to scrutinize my appearance more closely before stepping out of my room. Nothing overt, yet I would deliberately leave the top button of my blouse undone. Choose the jeans that embraced my hips just right. The air was filled with the sweet, warm scent of vanilla, a comforting embrace that lingered on the skin like a cherished memory. Not for Mark. He was so lost in his own world that my entrance, even in the most vulnerable state, would have gone completely unnoticed. But Ethan, his gaze always held just a moment longer than necessary, and that stirred something deep within me. A sensation long buried, now resurfacing after years of silence, witnessed, yearned for, awake. As the door clicked shut behind him, I caught my reflection in the mirror, a wave of revulsion crashing over me. What was I doing? What sort of woman allows her stepson to gaze at her in such a way? What sort of woman dares to glance back? Yet, despite the turmoil of my thoughts, I pressed on, unable to halt my relentless pursuit. A magnetic force had ignited between us, drawing us closer with an undeniable intensity. A tension so palpable, the silence roared with intensity. As we crossed paths in the dimly lit hallway, our shoulders grazed, igniting a fleeting spark that lingered on my skin like a whisper of warmth. In the dimly lit kitchen, he would stretch his hand behind me, searching for something just out of reach, and I found myself frozen, unable to react in time. His hand brushed against the small of my back, sending a shiver down my spine. My breath hitched in my throat. Silence enveloped us, a heavy shroud that neither dared to pierce. Yet, an undeniable sensation coursed through us both. We treaded a precarious path, one that both terrified and exhilarated us. Yet we found ourselves irresistibly drawn to it. Without even knowing it, I found myself watching for him, straining to catch the sound of his footsteps echoing on the stairs. He felt the shift in the air as he stepped through the door, a subtle change that hinted at something amiss. A tightness gripped my chest as he walked out the door, leaving me in the silence of uncertainty, his destination a mystery that hung heavy in the air. But what truly haunted me? There were fleeting moments when I longed for Mark to see me. Only once. Witness the transformation unfolding before your eyes. Speak your mind. Concern. Yet he never did. He remained deeply engrossed in his work. Late hours linger in the office, shadows stretching across the dimly lit room. He continued to eat dinner with one hand, while his other hand deftly scrolled through his phone, lost in a digital world. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, I stretched my hand into the depths of the cupboard, searching for a glass that seemed to hide in the darkness. Stephen stepped into the room, his presence looming just behind me. At first, his presence was a whisper in the shadows, an unspoken tension that prickled at the back of my neck. As my fingers closed around the glass, his arm encircled mine with a sudden intensity. Our hands brushed against each other, a fleeting spark igniting in the air between us. We remained locked in place, unable to break free. Not just yet. He simply stood there, frozen in place, fingers intertwined, a delicate dance of connection. My breath caught in my throat. His hand lay warm and motionless. I lifted my gaze. He cast his gaze downward. Silence enveloped us, heavy and unyielding. And then I took a step back, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. He grasped the glass, the cool surface sending a shiver through his fingers, and poured himself some water, the liquid cascading like a gentle waterfall, serene, intriguing, as if the world had simply turned a blind eye. Yet, something had shifted. Sleep eluded me that night. My skin tingled as if it held on to the memory of him, as if it were yearning for a moment that had yet to unfold, lingering in the shadows of possibility. I loathed the intensity of my own existence. I loathed myself even more for the desperate craving to experience it once more. And then came the night when the world shattered just a little more. The clock struck 2 in the morning as I stirred from my restless slumber. The thirst clung to me, relentless and unyielding. The tightness in my chest refused to ease, a relentless grip that held me captive. A kind that arises not from warmth or visions, but from an unyielding restlessness that stirs the soul, from the suffocating weight of tension that has lingered far too long, begging for release. With the chill of the morning air nipping at my skin, I rose from the warmth of my bed, my feet meeting the cool floor. Clad only in my robe, I descended the staircase, each step echoing in the silence of the house. Shadows loomed in the kitchen, wrapping the space in an unsettling darkness. The sole illumination seeped in from the moon, casting an ethereal glow as it filtered through the window. And there he stood, a figure shrouded in mystery. Ethan stood at the edge of the world, the weight of his choices pressing down like a storm cloud ready to burst. Every heartbeat echoed in the silence, a reminder of the path he had chosen and the shadows that loomed behind him. The air crackled with tension, and he could feel the pull of destiny urging him forward into the unknown. There it stood, already waiting, abstaining from water, staying perfectly still, silently lurking in the shadows. Suspense hung in the air, thick and palpable. The seconds stretched into eternity as anticipation built, each tick of the clock echoing like a heartbeat, waiting. It was a Thursday night when everything changed. A tempest loomed ominously, gathering strength as it surged in from the west. The thunder rattled the windows, a fierce warning from the heavens, yet I remained deaf to its ominous call. Mark had vanished into the unknown. A journey to the bustling heart of Chicago, for a business endeavor, awaits. Vanished for 4 days. He brushed his lips against mine in a fleeting farewell that morning, a whisper of a kiss that lingered in the air, heavy with unspoken words. He snatched his suitcase, tossed over a casual, "I'll text when I land," and strode out the door as if my feelings were nothing more than a fleeting shadow. As the clock struck 6, the rain began to fall, each drop a whisper of the storm to come. It began with a gentle pace, a whisper of intensity, but soon it escalated, building to a fierce crescendo. Steady sheets transformed the world beyond into a swirling haze. Curled up in bed, I held a book in my hands, yet the words on the pages eluded me. The lights dimmed, casting shadows that danced across the room. The screen darkened, plunging the room into silence. The house lay in eerie silence, an unsettling stillness that hung in the air. Suddenly darkness enveloped the room as the power cut out. In an instant, everything changed. Shadowy silence enveloped me as I stood there, anticipation coursing through my veins, waiting for it to return. It simply did not. With a flick of the match, the candles ignited, casting flickering shadows that danced across the walls. A solitary figure stood in the bathroom. A solitary figure rests on my nightstand. One stood by the window, gazing out into the unknown. The room transformed, enveloped in a soft, flickering glow of gold. I perched on the edge of the bed, inhaling deeply, letting the stillness envelop me. And then, a sound pierced the silence. Each footfall echoed in the silence, a rhythmic reminder of his presence. Gentle, unhurried, deliberate. A sudden knock echoed through the silence, reverberating with an unsettling urgency. His voice dropped to a whisper, on the brink of uncertainty. "Hey, are you all right?" I assured him I was fine. "Only the power. There's nothing to fear." "Only the power. There's nothing to fear." He stayed. With a deep breath, he crossed the threshold. He donned a simple t-shirt, its unadorned fabric clinging to him like a second skin, hinting at the secrets he carried beneath the surface. Darkness enveloped everything, tailored to perfection. The rain clung to her shoulders, a chilling reminder of the storm that raged around her. He must have lingered by the window, or slipped outside for just a fleeting moment. His hair was a wild tangle, each strand defying order and convention. He appeared as if he had been trapped in a restless loop, his footsteps echoing the turmoil within him. I inquired if he required anything. He shook his head, a silent storm brewing within him. No, I simply can't. Your light pierced through the darkness, a beacon in the night. I wanted to reach out and see how you're doing. He lingered in the shadows of the doorway, poised and watchful. The flickering candlelight danced across his face, igniting a spark in his eyes. His jaw was clenched tight, a silent struggle brewing beneath the surface, as if he were desperately trying to contain a storm within. Words failed me. In the hushed shadows that lingered between the roars of thunder, he finally spoke the words. It was never my intention to cross paths with you that day. Yet the memory lingers in my mind, haunting me relentlessly. The words lingered in the air, as if they had been wrenched from his very soul and cast down between us. There was no turning back now. There's no room for pretense. My heart raced, a sudden jolt of adrenaline coursing through me. My throat tightened, parched and raw. Words eluded me, hanging in the air like a fragile whisper waiting to be released. Silence enveloped me, a heavy shroud that kept my thoughts locked away. My gaze locked onto him. He cast a glance over his shoulder. Every fiber of my being echoed with the certainty that this was the moment. The instant when the threshold would be breached, or held captive. Yet, I remained frozen in place. He didn't either. It was only when he dared to take that one step forward that everything changed. Then another one emerged from the shadows, drawing nearer, so near that his scent enveloped me. A whisper of something faint, earthy, and clean lingered in the air. We lingered in that moment, only a breath away. The silence loomed, heavy and palpable. My breath hitched in my throat. And then, with a gentle hesitation, he leaned in, his breath quivering with anticipation, and pressed their lips against mine. It was fleeting, almost non-existent, uncertain, incorrect, yet undeniably true. It felt achingly authentic. His presence sent a shiver through her, a moment of intense connection that lingered. Soft. As if he were inquiring, rather than seizing. As we broke apart, silence enveloped us, heavy and unyielding. We remained frozen in place, inhaling the essence of one another. The silence hung thick between us, laden with the unspoken words that lingered in the air, each one a weight we were too afraid to lift. My gaze locked onto him. In that fleeting moment, as time seemed to suspend, I was engulfed by the weight of existence. Yearning, a heavy weight, pressing down, suffocating in its intensity. A deep, aching desire that pulls at the very core of one's being. Regret washed over him like a relentless tide, pulling him deeper into the shadows of his own mind. A wave of relief washed over her, enveloping her like a warm embrace after a long, treacherous journey. And a sensation I hadn't experienced in years surged within me. In search of, essential, awake, I felt overwhelmed, desperate for clarity, wishing I could change the course of things. Yet deep down, I knew I was desperate to hold on to every fleeting moment. The following morning, an unsettling air hung over everything. Not entirely mistaken. It was as if the house sensed the change that had taken place. The walls closed in around her, a suffocating embrace that quickened her pulse. The air hung heavy, a silence that felt almost tangible. Even the light filtering through the windows seemed transformed, casting an unfamiliar glow that hinted at secrets untold. Somehow, it felt less vibrant. As dawn broke, I rose with the first light, the world still cloaked in shadows. Before the sun had fully risen, the thought of encountering him in the hallway sent a shiver down my spine. He dreaded the thought of witnessing the expression on his face, or even more terrifying, the possibility of seeing nothing at all. I brewed a cup of coffee, but its flavor was harsh and unforgiving. I stood at the kitchen sink, mug clutched tightly in my hand, my gaze lost in the void, struggling to draw in a breath, as if my ribs were not collapsing around me. After what felt like an eternity, Ethan finally descended the stairs, the anticipation hanging thick in the air. The faint creak of the stairs reached my ears before his figure came into view, a familiar rhythm as he deftly avoided the last step, moving with an uncanny silence that sent a shiver down my spine. But today, silence enveloped each step. He stepped into the kitchen, his voice barely a whisper as he greeted the day, and made a beeline for the fridge. He averted his gaze, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air between us. A surge of words clamored within me, desperate to break free, inquire about the quality of his slumber, inquire about the significance of last night, inquire whether he harbored any hatred towards me. Yet, the words eluded me. Yet, he remained silent, offering nothing at all. We danced around one another, each step echoing the distance of two strangers. Proceed with caution. Far away. Calculated. The weight of the kiss lingered in the air between us, unspoken and suffocatingly heavy. And that profound silence, it was a darkness deeper than guilt, more agonizing than shame. It was a void, an emptiness that lingered in the air. He stood in the shadows, a presence felt yet elusive, as if he had slipped through the very fabric of reality. He lingered at the table, the quiet crunch of cereal, the only sound in the stillness, each bite a solitary echo in the room. I sank into the couch, feigning interest in my phone, my eyes glazed over, absorbing nothing but the silence around me. From the periphery of my sight, I observed him intently, attempting to decipher the intricate lines etched upon his face, the depths hidden within his gaze. With a final crunch, he polished off his cereal, the last remnant swirling in the bowl before he rinsed it clean. Then he ascended the stairs once more, the familiar creak of the steps echoing in the quiet house. And I remained there, frozen in place. Silence enveloped the air, thick and heavy, as if time itself had come to a standstill. The void stretched endlessly, a vast expanse of nothingness that seemed to swallow all light and sound. It was a haunting silence, where echoes of the past lingered like ghosts, and the weight of absence pressed heavily against the soul. In this desolate landscape, every heartbeat felt amplified, a reminder of life amidst the stark emptiness. The air was thick with anticipation, as if something profound lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to be discovered in the depths of the unknown. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the ground, Mark finally returned home that afternoon. He let his bag thud against the floor by the door, fingers deftly loosening his tie as he surveyed the room. "Everything good here?" he inquired, a hint of tension lacing his voice. It felt as if we were mere colleagues, exchanging fleeting glances as we brushed past each other in the corridor. A smile crept across my face. He nodded in agreement, a subtle yet powerful affirmation hanging in the air. All is well, deceive. He remained oblivious to the subtle pause that gripped me. I was oblivious to the way my fingers clenched the mug, a silent testament to the tension coursing through me. I failed to notice how my voice trembled. He nodded once, then ascended the stairs, slipping into the familiar shroud of his silence. Under the cloak of night, we gathered around the table for dinner. There were 3 of us, as if bound by an unbreakable bond. Mark sat at the head of the table, his eyes flickering between the glowing screen of his phone and the half-eaten meal before him, each bite punctuated by the relentless ping of incoming emails. Stephen sat across from me, his gaze fixed on the plate before him, hardly touching the food. I sat there, forcing a smile as I chewed, masking the flavor that resembled nothing more than cardboard. Silence hung heavily in the air. Mark glanced out the window, his voice laced with curiosity as he remarked on the shifting clouds and the chill in the air. I let out a strained chuckle. Stephen remained silent, his gaze fixed and unyielding. His gaze was averted, as if I were a ghost lingering in the shadows. Never. He was an enigma, shrouded in an unsettling distance, chilling, as if I had become a stranger in his eyes. Perhaps I was not. As the night deepened, I slipped beneath the covers, surrendering to the embrace of sleep far earlier than usual. I claimed a throbbing pain pulsed through my head, and then I would lie there, gazing at the ceiling, engulfed by a profound sense of solitude that I had never experienced before. It lingered in the air, a moment charged with intensity, even more profound than the kiss that had come before. In that moment, I understood the exhilarating rush of being truly seen once more, and I understood the crushing weight of loss. I found myself haunted by a single question. Had I been the one to shatter him? Have I shattered a part of him beyond repair? He's merely a boy on the cusp of manhood. He was still on a quest for self-discovery, and I I was meant to be the one in control. Or perhaps I didn't shatter him after all. Perhaps I have brought about my own downfall. Perhaps it was that fragment of myself I had desperately clung to. The fragment that remained unspoiled, still holding strong. Silence enveloped the moment. Complete. Perhaps that was the very thing I lost in that fleeting instant when I found myself lost in the silence of the moment, unable to think clearly about my decision. And yet, in the hushed corners of my mind, where shadows linger and secrets dwell, I find thoughts I dare not confess, even to my own heart. The way he used to look at me lingers in my mind, a haunting memory that stirs a deep ache within my heart, as if I truly mattered, as if I remained a fragment of beauty itself, as if I held a significance that demanded attention, and I loathed myself for letting that slip away. Yet, I felt the absence keenly. Days have slipped away without the solace of sleep. Not at all. As I shut my eyes, memories flood in, vivid and relentless. The candlelight danced, casting shadows that twisted and turned in my doorway. His silhouette loomed, a tantalizing presence, while the warmth of his breath ignited a fire within me. The air crackled with tension, thick with the weight of unspoken words, just moments before we teetered on the edge of a line that once crossed would forever change us. I find myself trapped in a loop, endlessly revisiting that moment by moment. Each hush, each fleeting gaze, each heartbeat that brought us to this pivotal instant. And I find myself pondering, at what moment did I cease to be the person I once knew? I sought refuge in distractions. The house was scrubbed and polished, twice over, each corner gleaming with a newfound brilliance. The pantry was meticulously organized, each item carefully placed in alphabetical order, creating a sense of order amidst the chaos of everyday life. I meticulously rearranged the linen closet, as if the simple act of organizing could somehow tame the chaos swirling in my mind, making my thoughts neater, cleaner, and more bearable. It simply did not. I even sought the help of a therapist. As I sat across from her, a woman with kind eyes and gentle hands, she leaned in slightly and asked, "What brings you here?" I couldn't do it. How do you confess to someone that you've crossed an unspoken boundary with your stepson? How can you voice it without the bitter taste of shame rising in your throat? In that moment, I chose deception. I confessed that I was feeling utterly disconnected. My husband had become a shadow, drifting further away with each passing day. I felt like a ghost, unseen and unheard. Every word resonates with undeniable truth. Only a fragment of the truth remains unveiled. In that moment, I turned to the page and began to weave my words into existence. This tale, this entire chaos, I've been capturing it all on the page. Each word, a step into the unknown. Struggling to extract the darkness from my heart, I seek to confine it within the depths of black ink, ensuring it can no longer inflict pain on anyone, where perhaps I can at last perceive it in its true form. A revelation unfolds. Never to seek absolution, I believe I am unworthy of such a fate. Yet perhaps it is comprehension that lies ahead. Perhaps it was merely a means to unravel the chaos of it all. Because I remain uncertain about how to name the events that unfolded. I find myself haunted by a single question. Was I the predator? Or was I merely craving the warmth of connection? Had I been searching for something I had been denied for so long that when it finally appeared, in an unexpected guise and at an inopportune moment, I instinctively reached out, driven by an unquenchable longing? Or was I fully aware of my actions? The truth lies shrouded in shadows. It has always been this way. The story blurs the boundaries, leaving no clear lines to follow. Only hazy boundaries and uncertain decisions that spiraled into tangible outcomes. What transpired defies explanation. Yet, I cannot deny the stirring within me. A sensation long buried, now stirring within me after years of silence. Witnessed, yearned for. Not in an inappropriate manner. Not in an inappropriate manner. It was something deeper than mere desire. Yet, it felt as though I had been reborn, and I loathe the weight it carries in my heart. I can't shake the feeling that Ethan might have confided in someone, a companion, a fellow student, perhaps even his true mother, who had never held any affection for me from the start. Is it possible that he harbors hatred for me now? If he believes I played him like a pawn. When he recalls that night, a wave of disgust washes over him. In that moment, a haunting thought creeps into my mind. Could he be suffering as well? If he lies in bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling, lost in the shadows of uncertainty, just as I am, grappling with the weight of it all. Thoughts of leaving Mark swirl in my mind, a tempest of uncertainty and longing. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, the sound of a zipper echoed soft. A bag lay open, waiting to be filled with the essentials of a journey yet to unfold. Each item carefully chosen, each fold of clothing, a whisper of adventure. Anticipation crackled in the air like static electricity. The world beyond beckoned. I must tell him I need space. Expressing my discontent, a truth that lingers in the air, yet withholding the reasons that haunt me. But then what would happen next? Begin anew. Embrace this tale and step into a new existence, donning the guise of a stranger? Could any of this ever be justified? Or would I merely be fleeing from the ruins I had wrought? No matter the distance I travel, the essence of who I am remains unchanged. Yet she remained the woman who had dared to cross a line with someone she was meant to shield. Yet she remained the woman whose insatiable hunger drowned out her better judgment. She remained the figure cloaked in shadows, silent and unwavering, refusing to utter a word of denial. Hurt was never my intention. It wasn't Ethan. It wasn't Mark. I couldn't even recognize myself. Yet, within the haunting stillness of my solitude, I transformed into a stranger, a shadow of the person I once knew. Have you ever experienced a profound sense of invisibility? A haunting feeling of being utterly overlooked by those who were meant to cherish you, driving you to take an action you never imagined you could? Something irrevocable, a choice that haunts the soul? Is there a truth so tangled that revealing it casts you as either the villain or the victim, or perhaps both? Have you ever gazed into the mirror, only to find a stranger's eyes reflecting your own? For that reason I have. And I'm certain I am not alone in this. Some burdens we bear in silence, for the weight of the truth is too great to utter. For fear of being judged, of rejection, of being condemned to endure the relentless waves of pain that threaten to pull us under. Yet, silence offers no solutions. It only serves to raise the walls even higher. Here I am, dismantling them piece by piece. Once upon a time, there unfolded a tale that was uniquely mine. Not for pity, not for the sake of attention, yet perhaps somewhere in the stillness of the night, someone is alone in their dimly lit room, gazing up at the ceiling at 2 a.m., questioning if they are the only soul to have ever experienced such profound feelings. You are not. What if you found yourself crossing a line, driven by an insatiable need to reclaim that spark of life? Have you ever wrestled with the weight of guilt, the sting of loneliness, or a haunting secret that steals your sleep? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Silence speaks volumes. A whisper of defiance, a flicker of self-assertion, a reminder that your voice still echoes in the silence. Your story holds significance as well. If any part of this resonates with you, stirring something profound within, making you feel a little less isolated, a little more acknowledged, or even just slightly understood, I invite you to show your support by liking this video. Join us on this thrilling journey. Stay close. Every week at Shocking Infidelity Saga, prepare to dive into tales that will leave you breathless. Whispers of untold tales linger in the shadows. Yet, it is the voices we must listen to. For it is often the harshest realities that grant us the greatest liberation. And if nothing else, hold this close to your heart. Loneliness creeps in silently. It infiltrates the very essence of the moment. Gradually, suddenly, out of nowhere, and if you let your guard down, silence will consume you. It will extract pieces of your very soul, fragments you never intended to surrender. Fragments of yourself that may remain forever lost.